Bienvenidas, bienvenidos. We have chosen a handful of wonderful books for your pleasure in exploring some of the wonderful writers from this hemisphere. So from this Latina bibliophile, I want to share these wonderful books with you in the hopes that you'll be inspired to read them or others like them. But first, this is Latina Literati. The first book on our list is The Making of Yolanda la Bruja by Lorraine Avila. This is a wonderful, wonderful book about a young Afro-Dominican woman who's in high school at the Bronx, and so it's a coming of age, but it's also steeped in the traditions of the Caribbean. And for those of you who have some experience with the Caribbean, you know that it's a very ancient feeling that through our Caribbean ancestors, the Taino, Arawak, Carib indigenous people, our Afro, the descendants of those who were brought from Africa. And so there's a long tradition of seeing what is beyond what is in front of you. And so the word brujeria, which is a tradition in Yolanda's family, it's a tradition that she's expecting at any moment to start to be trained in. And the word brujeria encompasses so much more than the English word witchcraft. Brujeria is a very ancient tradition, and it is one that is a mixture of so many different traditions in the Caribbean. And so for this Dominican young woman, she can read people, she can read energy, she can feel vibes from others. And so she starts to be empowered and becomes somewhat of a leader in that she is able to understand others' motivations before they can even understand them. And so it's a wonderful book for a coming of age book in the Bronx from a Caribbean writer that I think this is her first work, and it's really captivating. She's done a great job of interweaving all of the different types of influences that a young woman like Yolanda would have, coming from the Caribbean background and then having to confront the reality of high school in a place like the Bronx. My own mother was born in a town right on the edge of El Yunque rainforest in Puerto Rico. It's the only rainforest in the U.S. National Forest Service network. It's a very beautiful place. And so there's a lot of nature around you, a lot of sounds, a lot of smells, a lot of feelings of nature when you're raised so close to it. And I think that this is something that envelops those that are from the countryside who have these types of connections. Wonderful book. The Making of La Bruja Yolanda. So definitely recommend it. And as always, check your local booksellers, your library. I'm sure your libraries will have these. If perchance they don't or they're out, you don't want to wait, we always leave independent booksellers links in the description box for you to order new or used books, because we want to support independent and local booksellers. The next book is absolutely amazing. Marvelous, wonderful book. It is a book by the son of Guatemalan immigrants, Professor Hector Tobar, who is a professor at UC Irvine, Pulitzer Prize winner, and his most recent work, Our Migrant Souls, really talks about, discusses, explores what is Latinidad. What does it mean to be Latina or Latino? Where does that come from, and what is it that it brings with it when we envelop ourselves in that identity? Of course, he's going to address, in the book, he addresses colonialism and segregation and racism and all of the isms that we are confronted with when we move from one country to another. But specifically for Latinas and Latinos, I think it's really important to understand what a strength it is to have an understanding of where we come from and what our destiny is. Because as I like to say, we are the dreams of our ancestors, and we're here to go forward. So this amazing writer sets forth this book with so many themes and so many issues. It is autobiographical in that he is using his own experience to explore these themes, but it's really worthwhile. It's a really great read, and I highly recommend it. Hector Tobar, I should say Professor Hector Tobar, Our Migrant Souls. Some say that Professor Hector Tobar is in the tradition of James Baldwin, the amazing African-American writer who is we're celebrating his 100th birthday this year. So it's very apropos to bring him up and to make a parallel in that these writers are exploring subjects that are really important to all of us. So highly recommend it. Again, Our Migrant Souls by Professor Hector Tobar. The next book is called Speculative Fiction for Dreamers, and it's an anthology of modern Latina and Latino writers. And so you have everything from curanderas to chupacabras. Really wonderful stories by all of these different, a variety of writers that we all need to discover. They're short essays, but they're really worthwhile, and highly recommend Speculative Freedom for Dreamers, an anthology that is worth reading. The final book that we're recommending is My Foreign Language by Alegría Hudes. Now, she is the co-writer with Lin-Manuel Miranda in The Heights, and so again, just powerful Caribbean voice that talks about her experience in a new place and all of the assimilation issues that arise. Of course, all the isms that we all have to deal with when you live in a place where others see you as the other. Really worthwhile, and of course, wonderful writer, highly acclaimed, as we all know if you've seen The Heights. Really, this is characterized as kind of the brilliant memoirs of this brilliant Boricua. Puerto Rico in general, and Boricuas in New York or wherever they may be, there's a long literary tradition, very long literary tradition. I mean, we're talking about, over 100 years of writers, men and women, that are well recognized in terms of documenting the experience of the diaspora in the United States and beyond. So really fascinating to read this work, highly recommend it, and I hope that you've enjoyed a couple of these works that I think just focus on Latinidad, focus on who we are and our experiences, and I really hope you'll choose one of them or all of them to read. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey. As always, this is a community. Love to hear any recommendations you may have. What are books that you think we should be reading? And this was a special request, so we always like to fulfill the requests of our community. So if you'd like us to talk about something in specific, let us know. And so please subscribe to Latina Literati and let us know what you're reading, because we want to know. Con mucho cariño, mucho salud, mucho amor. Gracias.